The NHL playoff picture is still up in the air, but here in Winnipeg, fans are confident the arena will echo with the sound of white noise again.
Let's go! Go, Jets, go! Winnipeg is back in the big leagues and over the moon.
Welcome back to the Landing Strip, presented by From Financial. And late night show, or a little landing strip after dark as we approach the midnight hour. And I gotta say, I'm excited to get into this one. This might have been my favorite Winnipeg Jets win of the season. This we'll get into it here. Mikey, how you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Like you said, it's top line after dark. We're hitting midnight coming up right away, and the Jets just put an absolute beating down on the Vegas Golden Knights. So, man, I'm excited. That was great.
Turds bugging me already with the sun's out, guns out, and feeling that spring is in the air, and so is playoff hockey. And before we gotta do the song. We gotta get into our victory music before we start breaking this one down.
Let's hit it.
Woo. Eric Comrie. Shout out. Mikey. Let's take it over to you to start it as usual here. What is your big takeaway leaving the Vegas Golden Knights versus Winnipeg Jets game here tonight?
I think you kind of briefly touched on it right there. Playoff hockey is here. We got to see a game tonight that you want to see out of a team that's going to be challenging in the playoff, that's going to be going deep. They did everything that you expect out of that. They were in the dirty areas of the ice. They were putting their body on the line. It was a playoff style game, and the Jets came out on top at every aspect of it. So that was kind of my big step away from the game was, man, I'm ready to take anybody on the playoffs looking like this.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same direction HH Living Local went here on Twitch with vanquishing one of our biggest demons in a controlled fashion is about as erection inducing as it gets. And it is a bit of an after dark episode here. So I get the rush that Harrison's feeling. But I've made it no secret. When it comes to the Western Conference, the Vegas Golden Knights are the team I absolutely fear the most when it comes to the Winnipeg Jets. Historically, I mean, Tree G over on YouTube puts it here. Love a Vegas beating. It's been a long time. And it was, 13-1, I believe they showed on the broadcast today in their last 14 games. And Vegas historically has had that shutdown defensive system that really breaks the Jets down. And tonight was an example of we saw it work the opposite way, where the Jets were able to create and get some big goals, especially in that first, where they absolutely dominate that game. And they were really able to limit what Vegas was able to do in transition and what they were able to create. And even when they did create some offense off of some turnovers late in that second and kind of built some momentum, Eric Comrie, man, gets in there, puts up a shutout and an earned one at that. This, I truly believe, from minute 1 to minute 60, against this team who I absolutely fear when it comes to the Winnipeg Jets, to watch them dictate a game like this, I'm kind of like where you are there. if the Jets are going to play like that, I feel really good going into the playoffs. That was the blueprint for me in that game.
Yeah, that was everything that you want in a playoff style. And like you said, that was vanquishing some of the demons, right? This was a team that we've gone to war with so many times and haven't been able to get the better of, and to do it without Connor Hellebuck, to do it with Eric Comrie in net, to score 4 goals like that. It's all those little things that we want from the Jets. They were able to put together tonight in a game against, one of one of the rivals that we've kind of built in a short amount of time with Vegas coming in here. So yeah, that was everything that you wanted out of the group tonight.
And even bigger, the Dallas Stars win again earlier today after this run they're on is honestly starting to piss me off a little bit. They look like dog water for half the game to 40 minutes lately, and they squeak out these wins. And today it wasn't really a squeak out; ended up winning 5-1. But watching them convert and continue to keep this alive, the Central right now is an absolute bloodbath. So it's great to see the Winnipeg Jets come in and take care of their business when we know they need to. St. Louis gets their 11th win in a row.
Yep.
Colorado, I think it moved to 14-2-2 in their last 18. Not a fun division to be in, but the Winnipeg Jets continue to lead that division. It looks like next Thursday versus Dallas is going to potentially decide who wins the West this year.
Yep.
And I'm going to start there quickly. Thanks to T. Kona Poly for getting it set up. We will be doing a live watch party for what may be the biggest game of the season for the Winnipeg Jets next Thursday for the Dallas game at Dallas Restaurant. We're going to have the lounge side there going. Me and Mikey got to go there for a bite this week, and it was absolutely Fantona. T. Kona, great pick. It was absolutely phenomenal. Sorry, can't talk this late. So I'm excited. If you want to be a part of that, give me a shout in the DMs. Got a lot of interest after throwing it up on Twitter. Very excited to see how many people want to come out. And we're looking to bring the community together, have some fun during this run, watch a game together, and what's going to be a big one. Let's ride those waves together, and then we're going to try and do a live show there. So if that's something of interest, let me know. And thanks again to Tico and Pauly and Yurgo over at Dallas. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. We were over there for a bite to eat already, and the food's fantastic. So definitely come out, send Nick a DM if you want to come join us for the show and join us for the game. Because that game will decide the Central Division, the West, and kind of what the Jets' playoffs hopes are really going to be hinging on, I think, for a nice long run. So definitely come out and enjoy the game with us, and we can cheer on a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be a big one. That's going to be the game at this point. I'm excited to see where that goes. I see over on Twitch, Canadian Beard Geek says, I called this game as a loss when I saw the lineup. I'm always happy to be wrong. And Mikey, you have not been wrong on this. You've been kind of calling your shot here. I didn't see enough of the LA game. I fell asleep early. I've been kind of up and down with my health this week. What did you think? I know you're not surprised. What did you think of going back to this lineup? And clearly this is the plan going into the playoffs.
Yeah, this is, what's the old adage? When somebody tells you who they are, believe them. Right? That's Arniel has told us all year, right from game one all the way through, that when he has a moderately to fully healthy lineup, this is the setup. This is the trios that they want to run out there. So yeah, I was not shocked whatsoever to see that this was the going back to, especially after what happened in the LA game where they came out flat, right? So was not shocked to see it. I'm gonna have to kind of echo a little bit with Canadian Beer Geek. I was expecting the Jets not to have such an easy time with Vegas tonight. I was worried after that LA game we were going to get another flat performance. So to see them come out and just absolutely storm out was really nice. But yeah, not shocked to see Arniel go back to this lineup. This is the lineup, right? This is what he's going to want to do in the playoffs. Any hopes of Ehlers and Lowry and this or that, I think is fleeting. I think we're this, and when it works, we've seen it, right? This is a really good group. This is a really good system. And when it is on, man, it can absolutely dominate. So I just hope we're going to get more of this type of performance in the playoffs as opposed to some of the ones we've seen mid-season. But it feels like they're rounding into form. They're picking up their game at the right time. So, fingers crossed.
Hey, if they're going to play like they did today, like I said, this might have been my favorite W of the year.
Yep.
It could work. This was them playing that system and that blueprint to a T. They took the foot off the gas and played defensively for the third, which is never fun to watch. Obviously, you're always worried about giving the other team momentum, and Vegas was getting their looks. But I thought this was a quality showing, and it's hard to argue. I was definitely disappointed seeing him go back to this, and I do have my worries come playoff time. But on a night like today, Arnie's got the right one, and we see the top nine really contribute throughout the lineup in their own ways. The fourth line continues to do what they've kind of done for a little while here, so hard to argue with it on this night. It looked good.
Yeah, this is the poster board game for what they want to do, right? This is exactly what they can point to and say, see, this is why we want to play this grouping in this system. So, I can understand it. I could still, we've talked all year about the lineup and things like that. So yeah, I was not shocked to see him go right back to it. And barring any type of injury, again, this is what we're going to be looking at come playoff time. And as long as everybody's pulling in the same direction, man, it works. And it works well.
Curtis Weeb it sounds like Adam Lowry postgame echoed my thoughts on not liking the third period. So, hey, we're in line with what the captain's thinking. That works for me.
Yep.
I'll do a quick update here as I see Ball Hockey Video says any update on Nik, and it looked like earlier Rylan Bazinet, appreciate you sharing this, said Arnie said Nik should be okay, just needs to stop getting hit by pucks. And this was definitely a game where Ehlers was getting in the way of everything. His own team shooting, taking that one in the knee, making that block in the D zone. And I got to say, I know I'm not always the biggest Kevin Sawyer fan. I loved his analogy for it. If you're familiar with YouTube culture, the Scott Sterling soccer meme clip he compared Ehlers to tonight is worth a watch. I tweeted it out. It's one of my favorites. I've watched that one a ton. And I want to shout out Stefan Klassen, who made sure to reply with the volleyball one. Great watch if you just want a little comedy, a little sports comedy. And I really like that analogy from Sawyer tonight on Nik Ehlers.
Yeah, that's perfectly apt. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, make sure that you do. It's pretty funny. And D-Labs echoes that. Arniel says the Ehlers will be all right. So hopefully everything will be all right with Nik, because yeah, they can't withstand a long absence of Nikolai Ehlers from the lineup, because man, he was just he put himself in front of everything tonight.
I gotta say, both times he went down, I wasn't that concerned. Like, if there's one thing I don't love about Nik Ehlers, it's that he milks every single thing like this. So I was like, I kind of just figured it was one of those. And I'm glad to hear that is the case. Tell me I'm wrong.
How dare you? He is a hero and a goddamn gladiator. I will not hear it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me. He's okay, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Once again, I really like where Caitlin goes on YouTube with this, saying, I have to give it to them. This team has stepped up every time it's truly mattered this season. This is something you've been talking about too, especially around the Mark Scheifele conversation. And I thought today was the most prime example of it. When the Jets game's starting, at that point, Dallas is winning that game in the third period. I want to say it was 3-1, 4-1 before the Jets game gets started. You know that someone in that room's paying attention to that, and they respond in just an immaculate way for me. Like, I'm just happier than a pig in shit today on this game, honestly.
Yeah, this is in years past, it hasn't been the case, but for some reason this year, when the lights are the brightest, that's when this team tends to shine, which again is a good omen come playoff time. And Mark Scheifele specifically, if you've got a game, either a big game in terms of the standings, or it's on a primetime type of a night and on national TV, for some reason, Mark Scheifele, man, he's feasting on those this year. So if you're somebody who's into those bets out there, if you've got a primetime game, Mark Scheifele's good for a goal in all of those.
A little update here. It looks like Gilbert Marion saying Draisaitl got hurt again tonight.
Yeah, they were mentioning that on the post game.
Interesting. Okay. On the live show, this relates to a question I'm going to take it to next year. Choices TK says live show within a riot sounds like fun, and our boy Mo, that's what we're calling him now. Our boy Mo says, "Are we gonna head to Portage and Main after we spank the Stars next week?" Ooh. Is that the response after the Winnipeg Jets seal, or what should be seal the Western Conference? Our conference after a beating of the Stars? Are we heading down to Portage and Main? Man,
it's a long run to get from Regent all the way to Portage and Main, so we may have to postpone it for that one game. But no, I'm not ready to flood the intersection quite yet with the win against Dallas. A nice big win against Dallas will make me feel a lot better about the playoffs overall, right? Because we've talked about their positioning, but I'm not ready to give it to them quite yet on that one. I want to see. I want either a President's Trophy banner locked up, then maybe we can do a little celebrating, but I want it as a playoff run.
Yeah, I was asking that tongue in cheek. Don't you worry. I'm not getting that excited about a regular season win. At this point, you know what I'm judging this team on, and it is going to be the playoffs, yes, regardless of the ups and downs and the big positive waves we're experiencing right now. Slick, I like where Slick McGuire goes with this too, and it relates to what Caitlin's saying. It relates to a big question I had for this team, and still do a little bit when it comes to that first round. But Slick McGuire makes a great point here, saying, I remember at the start of the season, the question was, but can they do it against playoff teams? I'd say this year they've really started answering this, and also to kind of put some numbers behind it. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Connor Hrabchak tweeted this out earlier this week, and you'd add this game to it. The Jets have the best points percentage against the top 15 in the league this year.
Interesting. I missed that. I wouldn't be surprised, though, just anecdotally, just off the top of my head. Yeah, like I said, anytime they've had bid competition this year, they've been able to really step up in those games. So I would not be surprised.
And whereas last year, I remember having that discussion around those groupings, the Jets were the best team against the bottom third. They were very good against the middle third, and then the top third they would struggle. That's a great one. Maybe we'll have to dive into that again.
Yeah.
Also, I'll put this out here. Rob Somerville updates, and might have been a little early for Nick Ehlers' optimism. Rob Somerville lets us know in the chat. NHL Jets head coach Scott Arniel didn't have much of an update on Nikolai Ehlers, saying it was too early to tell the severity of the injury. We'll look for a further update on Friday, as per Ken Wheat, which is a little different from what the chat was telling us earlier.
Yeah, that feels more like what we've seen, especially when you start getting the skate off of the leg, right? When you're taking that one off of the off the foot, you get that skate off, and that foot swells up, and things start to get a little more painful. So. Yeah, that feels more like the type of update that feels in line with what we saw from Nick Ehlers tonight.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see what Friday looks like there. On that stat, D-Lab says over on Twitch, yeah, they're well over 60%. I want to say it was 68, if I remember this correctly, which is a massive statement Huge. On how good this team's been from the very beginning of the season right to, what is it today, game 76?
6, yep.
Not bad, man.
That's huge.
That's something to be pretty proud about.
Like we said all year, this has felt like a different version of the Jets. The things that we've had the biggest issues with in the past have slowly kind of worked their way into being strengths for this team. So it feels different. And if they can stay at least relatively healthy getting to this to the playoff line here, they can make some noise.
What did you think of the Eric Comrie start today? I know social media was quite stunned. What was your thoughts seeing Eric Comrie would be manning the nets for the Jets versus Vegas?
So it's one of those things where we can't have it both ways, everybody. We can't both be screaming for Connor Hellebuck to be getting rest, to be ready for the playoffs, to have time off. And then also be screaming, oh, we can't be playing Eric Comrie because we're going to lose the game and we need to stay ahead of Dallas, right? So we got to pick one, everybody. Either we want Connor Hellebuck rested going into the playoffs, or we want him to play every game because we want these points ahead of time. We got to pick. So initially, my gut reaction, again, like has been for a lot of times, was, oh no, not Comrie. But then I stopped and went, no, he's been fine every fucking game for the most part. I think he's got one bad start maybe all year. So I was fine with it. After I calmed myself down and stopped the gut reaction a little bit. And again, he showed out. He's playing way above what he's making in terms of salary. He's playing way above what we would have expected just in terms of his past performances. He's having a fantastic year. It's working for Comrie. He's making individual stops that are a lot better than we've ever actually seen in the past. So another great game from a guy that off the ice has really won himself a shitload of fans. And hopefully now with this on ice play, will start winning himself even more of them.
Yeah, so I'm glad you went there. We're very much on the same page on this one. I'll go to Ethan KPM on YouTube first because he does have like the big reason why we saw it today, I believe. And Ethan KPM points out Comrie played tonight because his wife is about to pop, won't travel on the trip coming up, and we did see Chris Dreger get the call up with Jared Anderson Dolan. And I kind of arrive at where you are. For me, it's been hard to get too passionate on either side of the goalie debate this year because you touch on it. On one hand, you want Connor Hellebuyck rested for the playoffs, and you just got that today. And then Eric Comrie has been a quality backup goalie for the team this year. I understand both sides of why people would feel a certain way. It's just one that I can't feel like that passionate about an answer. I'm good with either at this stage. And on a night like tonight, it's the right decision. Eric Comrie shows up in a big way, looked positionally sound, was confident in challenging that save on Mark Stone.
Yeah,
where Larry and Appleton are both on the back check, but both go for the guy driving the post, which allows Mark Stone to sneak up in the high slot where he's going to be most dangerous. And Eric Comrie gets out and looks big and challenges him, makes a big save there, gets Stone later in that shift. He came out and challenged someone 2 shifts later. You could tell Eric Comrie was comfortable and confident in that net, and he's deserved the starts he's gotten this year. It's one of those things for me. I can't get that excited about either side of the argument. I trust Eric Comrie this year, and he showed up in a big way. The only game I really put on him this year is that Buffalo one.
Yeah, that's the only bad start that he's had out of all of them. So I've stopped. Like I said, I still get that initial gut reaction, especially against a big team like Vegas. I go, crap. But then I stop and go, wait, no, that is old thinking. That has nothing to do with this year. And he's been good in pretty much every game outside of that one. So yeah, he was great challenging tonight. Like I said, he's got a few individual saves tonight that he doesn't make in the past. He doesn't have either the confidence to attempt or I'm not sure what, but he's really found a flow right now, and it's paying off for the Jets in a big way.
And Lucas Trapp, who apparently can't make the drive from Kitchener next week after telling me he was gonna, just bugging you, Lucas, asks, was that Comrie's best game of the season also?
Yes, 100%. Especially when you look at the context all around it, right? Big game in Vegas against a team that has historically had their number. 100% that is his best game. He gets the shutout, gets the Jets the 2 points. Yeah, I think that's his best game as a Winnipeg Jet.
And yeah, I think Curtis Wood nails it with this was Comrie's best game in a Jets uniform. And something I did want to go to here where Zooch40 brought this up. We've talked a few times about how the backup goalie factory and like Wade Flaherty's gotten a lot of credit. Connor Hellebuyck's also worked with that personal goalie coach for his advancements. Yep. Zooch40 brings up the idea, and we've now seen it with Rittich gets his career saved in Winnipeg. Brissois gets his career saved in Winnipeg. Now Comrie showing out again. And he's going to sustain his career now after coming to Winnipeg. Zooch40 says, who'd have thought studying under the best goalie in the world could help you get better? And I do think that is an aspect to this.
I wonder how much that is an aspect. Generally, your starting goalie and your backup goalie aren't working a lot together. You know what I mean? That's not generally the setup that a lot of NHL teams take. They generally don't practice together for the most part. They don't play together. I don't know if they spend a lot of off-ice time together either. So I don't know if I'd put a ton of stock into the Connor Hellebuyck is making the Eric Comrie thing a ton better. But maybe it's possible, yeah.
I like this point from Scott Westman, too, saying, Nick, check 37 stats. He's faced a ton less shots this year than other years. He's rested. And I do think that's a fine takeaway. And I know we had talked about this early in the year when Choices TK brought up the idea of looking at the stress of starts, kind of like bullpens and pitchers, and what you're kind of facing compared to just the number of starts. And I think the answer is probably closer to that, though you want to mix in the workload in games and a schedule as well, just because that rest doesn't occur in that span, it occurs afterwards. But this has been a better year for the Winnipeg Jets, making Connor Hellebuck's job easier, and it should hopefully parlay into some postseason excellence.
Yeah, the last 2 years have been a real trend down in terms of the amount of shots faced for Hellebuck. So that's only going to help him and the Jets succeed if they can really limit those and keep him below that 2,000 shot mark again. That'd be real good.
Curtis Weave also points out Helly and Comrie are great buds. Can't remember where I saw it. Maybe the Jets pregame show, and you see that. Like the one cool aspect for me with their relationship, and Eric Comrie kind of becoming the social media star that they've really let loose.
Yep.
Is just how much he has like a real admiration for like Connor Hellebuck. Like I think it's safe to say like Brossoit and Hellebuck had an awesome relationship, and that was evident. And but you knew Laurent Brossoit was motivated to try and get that starter opportunity,
yep,
which at his stage of his career, he should.
Absolutely.
It seems like Eric Comrie is just so happy to be in the NHL, living this life and getting to be there to watch Connor Hellebuck's success, which is parlayed into his own success. That it's a cool little dynamic they have going in the goalie room in Winnipeg.
Yeah, when you have the defined roles like that, and it's not one guy kind of breathing down the other guy's neck to take that job, you can definitely start to build more of a rapport. Absolutely. So yeah, maybe there is more to it than what I'm putting there.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Who knows? When you like to come to work every day, it certainly makes things easier.
Makes it much easier.
Yeah, and when you're miserable, not so much. Last thing on Comrie, and then we'll move on here a little bit. Lucas Trapp does ask, so how much does Comrie get next season? I imagine he's going to stay here for $1 million or under and kind of just keep filling that void. What do you think?
Yep, I think you'll see him at like 1.125 million, and he'll be sticking around. The 20.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, and I've seen some hype about it. In Ehlers We Trust says the Scheniverse helped Comrie. What a team effort. Doug Henderson said Shen is a monster. And I think this is the type of game from Shen and Sandberg that's going to have such divisive thoughts around it. What did you think of that pair?
So it was interesting tonight with that pair. So it's nice to see Luke Shen back. They definitely need him back there. It's a different looking depth chart with Luke Shen in, and I think that's more what the impact ends up being for Shen, because that pairing tonight wasn't all that great in terms of when you actually take a look at what they faced on the ice and the numbers, right? With the shot attempts, with the high danger. It wasn't a great night in terms of their particular play, but what Shen does to the rest of the lineup is so valuable, and it's the things that he also does, right, that don't quite show up there. It's the physical aspect of it. It's again, you watch guys, I keep using the phrase, but I loved it. He makes guys take the long way to get to the net. They kind of think a little bit extra, right, when you're coming up his wings. So not a great night in terms of the pairing itself, but again, what he does to the depth chart is so important in terms of the minutes. And I am very happy to see him back.
Before I dive into my thoughts, I got make a correction here, and I forgot. I thought Comrie signed the 1 year, and what's his name that ended up on waivers signed the 2. It was reversed. Comrie is on a 2-year contract, so next year he signed at just over $800K.
Oh,
thank you, Turd Ferguson and True North Ducky, for pointing that out. My mistake. I had those two mixed up. So yeah, Combs is already signed next year under $1 million, so that works out. On Shen and Sandberg, this is going to be an interesting one, and I see both sides of how people are going to view this game. I thought you saw Shen really make life difficult for the other team in the slot today with the physicality, the block shots, and all that. But this was also a game that pair was out in the scoring chances was out chance 11-4, and it's one of those things where in an individual game like this, and we're approaching the playoffs where it's just win, baby. At the end of the day, it's a race to 4. You're not looking at the individual metrics as much because that W is all that matters.
Yep.
And you see the physical impact from Luke Shen and Dylan Sandberg in this one. On the reverse, though, it's not the type of performance you want to emulate because you're not going to sustain that differential on the shot attempts and the scoring chances given up. It's like that old quote about blocking shots is great, but if you're doing it too much, there's probably a bigger problem.
Yep.
I've misquoted that, but you know which one I'm talking about.
Yep.
So on a night like today, I think you're gonna have a lot of people come out really excited about that aspect in Shannon Sandberg's game. But it's also the type of game you don't want to carry forward and kind of rely on, because that's when you kind of get into that bend don't break defensive aspect, and that's when trouble could come. So I see kind of both sides on it. They clearly were physically involved, making life difficult, but they also were the one pair that spent most of the game in the D zone with Vegas kind of getting quality looks against them.
Yeah, they got caved in terms of the shot attempts. It wasn't just that they, slightly came out on the wrong end of a, 52-48 type of game. They got caved in 5-on-5 in terms of shot attempts. So yeah, you don't want that being the pattern going forward. But you still like you said, those other aspects that they bring to the game, you still get that 2 point, or you still get the 2 points in the standings. So yeah, it's one you can kind of just chalk up to. Vegas is also a good team, right? There's two teams out on the ice. Vegas is one of the best teams out there. They're going to have their opportunities. It came against that pairing specifically tonight. I think you just chalk that up to the way that the game script went.
And there is the aspect that stuff like makes you think about going to those harder areas too. Like there is value in that
100%.
That style of game, and that's why I don't want to beat it up too much.
Yep.
Zuch 40 asks, we're all 11 in the third period though, and they were actually behind from period 1 on compared to the other two pairs, where I thought this was actually a really solid game from Miller and Stan, both of which, from what I've heard and understand, I'd kind of put out a tweet the morning after the LA game asking for what people saw. And from what I understand, I didn't watch. Miller had a big turnover that went for a goal against, and then I saw the clip of Logan Stanley deciding he was Bobby Orr for a minute there, and it going the other way. So I thought this was a good bounce back effort from Stanley and Miller, who just kept it simple defensively. Colin Miller gets on the board with that 96+ mile an hour bomb that Mason Appleton puts on a platter on power play 2. And Logan Stanley, if I'm not mistaken, had the assist on the Lowry goal. I believe he was the one that got that shot through. Adam Lowry, guy we've been talking about, and I was kind of saying if he had average finish, he'd score 30 goals because he keeps getting opportunities net front. But we weren't going to beat it up because I was kind of saying how my dad was always like, don't worry about the what you're not scoring on. Worry about when they dry up.
Yep. Big
goal from Adam Lowry late in the first in this one, getting to that crease. Nino Niederreiter active there, so that was great to see. And then the top line, Alex Iafallo continues to impress, and he eats that puck
right to the face
and keeps going.
Yeah,
eats a puck in the neutral zone and keeps going, and throws a beautiful backhand pass all the way across the ice to Mark Scheifele to bury the one-timer to get this game going. And then Cole Perfetti makes it 3 straight games with a goal with the empty netter. So you got impact again up and down this lineup. Some big individual efforts, some great simplistic efforts, and it culminates in what I think, again, it was the best win for the Winnipeg Jets this year.
Yeah, the Miller Stanley pairing specifically again had another good game, which was nice to see after a real rough one the other night. Colin Miller with that shot, man. I don't know how you take that out of the lineup at any point. That is such a weapon that they can utilize on the power play at 5-on-5. 96, just crushing it, was huge. And yeah, it just, it's kind of impressive how they keep. Stanley played another 13 minutes 5-on-5 again. I believe that's what he plays almost every single game where the game script kind of goes in this direction, where that's not some massive blowout where he ends up first in ice time or whatever. He generally gets about 13 minutes. They keep him right at that number, and when they do, he can have these type of games where it's not overly noticeable, and that's what you want out of your third pairing. Keep it simple. Don't make any big huge mistakes, And if you can get, a Colin Miller chipping in on the power play like that, you're laughing, right? That's all positive. So yeah, it was a good game again from that pairing, and I don't know how you take Colin Miller out going forward.
On the D conversations, a couple comments from Caitlin on YouTube. Shen is filling the role he was brought in to fill: physical presence and a good PKer. And hard to argue about either of those two things. We're
100%.
seeing that on display. He's playing a few too many minutes for what he is right now, and I would agree with that. He'll be all right in a third pairing role. And then they also say, I will sob if Miller comes out when Pionk returns. And I guess that's my big question here. I'm becoming more and more resigned to going back to the Sandberg Pionk thing from a puck movement and versatility aspect. And I do think the longer Shen's been here in an elevator role, you're seeing that the footwork is a big problem.
Yep.
What I'm curious to see is it Luke Shen beside Logan Stanley, or is it Luke Shen beside Colin Miller? Because those are two vastly different looks for me.
I think it should be Colin Miller. Just for that offensive piece of it alone, I think you got to give him a shot playing the offside and see if you can make a third pairing work with either Shen or Pionk, depending on opponent and depending on matchups and things like that. I really think they need to, when it comes to who's going to play with Sandberg, I think it should be matchup dependent. They really need to kind of find where they're going to be able to attack the opposing teams, because if you stick to just one guy or the other, and you're going to get burned in certain ways. So it's going to be real interesting to see how they manage those minutes. But in terms of, that third pairing, I think it's got to be Miller at least first up, because he's giving you no reason to take him out. And you've got size on all three pairs still.
Yeah, and Zuch40 does point out indications are showing Stan is going to come out lowest minute tonight of any D-man by 3 minutes. And that tends to be a bit of an indicator, though I do wonder if they talk themselves into the right-left shot aspect. I think Stanley Shen would be a really, really tough pairing to watch, whereas I think Miller, I think you try Miller on his offhand, though he is the puck mover with Shen.
Yep.
But in the O-zone, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have him on his offhand.
Yep.
And you get a bit more puck movement there that I think you have to. I think you have to try one of them off on their off wing first here. Yeah,
I agree. I think you have to give that an opportunity before you jump into being Logan Stanley for full time.
Ethan KPM also says a good coach like Arneal has shown, and you know what? When he's made adjustments, even if I've personally disagreed with them, they seem to be working. Will adapt in the playoffs after reading his opponent. Unlike Bones, he could adjust and choose the right pairing based on the matchup. And for me, I think that book is still out. That's what we're going to learn about Scott Arneal in the playoffs. I'm not ready to put him into that category just yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable saying he will adapt in the playoffs. We haven't seen a whole lot of adaptation during the regular season. It's been a lot of, this is what we want to do, we're going to do it, and if it's working or not, this is what we want to do. So I'm not sure if I'm ready to put him up there and say he's going to make the adjustments. I'm hoping. I'm real hoping that's how it goes, but we'll see. This playoff run is going to tell us a lot, not only about this group in terms of players on the ice, but it's going to tell us a lot about Scott Arneal.
Lastly on the D, and then let's get into the From Financial face-off. Another great night from DeMello Morrissey here, I thought. Morrissey comes up big, kind of pressuring that 3-on-1 and forcing a tough play, and the Vegas doesn't even get a shot on net. I thought they were really moving the puck well and not being stuck in their own zone. I thought they really controlled their flow of play, and obviously that's the big minute pair for Winnipeg, and that was positive to see. And then I want to point this out from choices, and let's move into the From Financial face-off tonight. And Asfan on Reddit pointed out pre-Jets win tonight, so we'll add the Jets win here, that the top four in the Central teams are 33, 5, and 3 in their last 41 games.
Yeah, that's it's a murderer's row right now in the Central, man. It's rough, but luckily Minnesota's fallen to that second wild card spot officially tonight, right? So we're in position to make this at least not as hard as it needs to be, because like I said, St. Louis and Minnesota right now, or Minnesota, St. Louis and Colorado are a little bit scary.
And Ethan points out he said could, not that he was saying he is necessarily there. I do think that's an important distinction.
Hold on, I'm going to push back. Ethan KPM says a good coach like Arneal has shown will adapt in the playoffs after reading his opponent. I'm not ready to say that he will adapt. We haven't seen too much of that yet. That's all I'm saying.
No, but his next one does say he could adjust and choose the right pair based on the matchup. Let's go to the From Financial Face-Off, where we want to hear from you. What details within the game do you think helped tilt the tides in this one? What was potentially missing? Mikey, let's start with you.
We didn't talk about this ahead of time, so hopefully we don't have the same thing tonight. But I'm going to go with kind of just something we've kind of talked about already is they've hit a playoff mentality. This team has hit a gritty playoff mentality. They are throwing themselves in front of everything. They're making passes with their face. They're taking shots off of some friendly fire because they're putting themselves in the right place. Adam Lowry scoring goals at the greasy areas. Alex Iafallo, going from the fourth line to the first line and not missing a beat. It seems like there is a different mentality right now with this group. They seem locked in. They know that the playoffs are coming. They know what their goal is. And it just feels like they've flipped a switch and they're really zoned in on that. And that was just kind of my takeaway on a game that they played well top to bottom. It feels like they've hit that new mentality after doing this now a few games in a row. So that's kind of where I'm at with it tonight.
Okay, I'm going to go. One thing I've kind of admired about Vegas is like how comfortable they are playing solid defensive hockey and looking for the other team to make the mistake. And we know the Jets, and it sounds like the LA game was a bit of a version of that where, from what I understand about the game, the Jets were creating their chances, but they weren't connecting when it got in tight, and they were kind of giving the puck away, and LA would go take it the other way and kind of do their thing. I thought the Jets did a really, really good job until they started sitting on their feet, but by then it was game over at that point. I thought the Jets did a really good job managing the puck and not giving it the other way to Vegas, who is a team that loves to jump on transition and burn you in situations like that. The first one that stood out to me was when the team was up, I want to say it was 3-0 at that point. Or no, it was 2-0 right before the power play goal. And Appleton had sent a high turnover in the O-zone blue line that sent an odd man rush the other way. But outside of that moment, I didn't see much of that. And Vegas is the type of team that thrives off that when they're able to take advantage and kind of break that momentum and then get to their game. I thought the Jets in this one, my From Financial Face-Off, is them handling their business, not allowing them to let Vegas get back into this with sloppy turnovers the other way, so to speak.
Absolutely, yep.
Let's jump into it. Zooch40 says his From Financial Face-Off. Then we're going to dive into a topic he's got going there after. 4 lines deep is my pick 2 games in a row. Can't go back to the old lines. These are the old lines, brother.
These are the old lines.
We went back to the old lines today. I'm a little confused on that one. Curtis Weeb's From Financial Face-Off is the 5-minute kill with the tender pulled. And I admire Vegas pulling the tender early. I admire a team not giving up on it. I also had a group chat prediction that the Jets win 4-0 after Leslie Boy. I don't know if you saw on Twitter. The puppy this morning was posing for a pick, and he was telling me the Jets were going to win this one. So Leslie knows puck. Leslie's 1-0 on the predictions. But it was good to see that the Jets calmly took care of that 5 or 6-on-5 extended. Vegas got a couple looks as you'd expect, but they didn't feel like they were going to take over that game at any moment. It didn't feel like Comrie was going to let one in. So I like that one from Curtis Weeb. T. Kona and Curtis also say From Financial Face-Off is Comrie answering the call and Comrie being incredible. Ethan KPM says Power Play 2, which came out, did their job. They look good creating on that group. Zooch40 does point out he means Iafallo on the top line when can't go back to the old lines, which I guess without Velarde, I imagine we'll kind of keep that situation intact.
Yeah.
Power Play 2 did look good in this one from a group that we saw a slight change today, and I do like this change from the coaching staff. Cole Perfetti jumps up onto the first unit, and he was pretty active with that group in the O-zone possession aspect of it. And then you saw Iafallo bump down to the second, and that's a bit more of a meat and potatoes power play unit,
Yeah.
which helps load up the Colin Miller bomb. I like how that went.
Yeah, it was a really good change. We've talked all year about Cole Perfetti and just how good he's been, and he's had a couple opportunities now to play with Power Play 1, and both times have been real positive. So it's nice to see him on there. He does fit that grouping a lot better than what Iafallo does, and Iafallo worked real well on that second grouping, and we got that Colin Miller bomb. So it was a real good change. The power play. It was nice to see them get a power play goal against Vegas, right? The team that just jumped ahead of them for first place in terms of power play percentage. So Jets got to show off a little bit in that aspect of it. So that was nice.
And Lucas Trapp wants the credit. I'm going to give him the credit. He says, Nick, I said it last show that they need Perfetti on PP1. Though Ethan also says, nah, save him on PP2. I don't mind him jumping up right now. I imagine he'll go back down if or when Velarde comes back.
If.
And I believe it was Curtis earlier too, talking about the power or penalty kill continuing to round itself out. They were perfect on this night, though I believe it was only the one kill. But that penalty kill looks a lot more sound of late, and I think that's when you look at a team who at their peak is such a quality defensive team, and penalty killing is involved there. I think that's a good indicator.
Yep, absolutely. It's based a lot on their timing, right? So they've really gotten that down lately, which is nice to see, especially with the additions after the deadline. So yeah, penalty kills rounding into form. Power play has been consistently good all year long, and you need both going into the playoffs. So this is a really good sign.
Chase says his From financial faceoff is everyone blocking shots and limiting Vegas shots for most of the game. And there was 18 blocks, I think?
I think, yes. Yep.
And that's the playoff type commitment in the D zone that even when a shot was coming through, that you were seeing bodies be thrown there. And you like to see that.
Although hopefully Perfetti doesn't murder Nick Ehlers next time with the shot.
I like where Slick goes here too, kind of playing into what we're talking about defensively. The From financial faceoff from Slick McGuire is, I know it's not a detail, and that's okay. I want people to think outside the box with this segment, and if there's an aspect of the game, go there too. It doesn't have to be a detail. I like you going outside the box here. But with the way this team defends as a collective, I can't help but have a warm feeling of security. And that has been this team's calling card, and it is something I'm really comfortable with. As we've seen the rest of the West, I can't remember who I was talking to on Twitter about this. We were talking a little bit about how important the first place is, and I'm getting a bit more worried than I'd like to admit. And we're going to get into Zooch 40 talking about that. But as these other teams have rounded out, despite the Jets kind of flirting with potentially dropping, the one thing I do think has been pretty consistent in their game the last couple weeks is the defensive effort and the quality of defensive play. And we know how much that matters come playoffs. Now, I hope it doesn't fall apart like last year. But I do think you've seen this team gearing up for defensive quality hockey for the last couple of weeks, despite this tension in the standings right now.
Yeah, it feels deliberate. It feels like they've really made it a focus of their game lately because they know what's coming in the playoffs. Right, the whistles tend to go away. The style changes up a little bit, which is always a bit of an interesting wrinkle with the NHL playoffs. That you get that different style of a little bit of play, a little bit of reffing, but it does feel like they know that that's what's coming. They're ready for it. They don't want to be caught off guard like in years past where you have a good regular season, get to the playoffs, and you get surprised by something. Right, so. This group feels different. It feels like they're ready for the bright lights. It feels like they're ready for this moment, as opposed to years past where we've gone into the playoffs kind of backing in.
Yeah, no, I like where they're progressing in those aspects. And just to even highlight this further, Zooch 40 brings up some numbers. Natural statistics showing Vegas only having 4 to our 8 high danger shot attempts tonight at 5-on-5. Jets look like they gave up very little in the high danger areas. And that to hold Vegas, who has some quality offensive players, only 4 high danger shot attempts. It's just great work defensively. The Jets were today what I see Vegas as normally in this series. of games against these two teams. The Jets did a really, really great job keeping Vegas to the outside tonight.
Yep, that's when they're calling card all year, right? When they're successful, that's they're getting everything to the outside. They're letting Connor Hellebuck see the shots that do come through. Tonight it was Eric Comrie, but that's been the style all year. And man, when it's effective, they can actually put it down.
Ethan KPM kind of plays into your point there with this team feeling like they know the moment, saying almost like a group who knows what their main criticism is. And it's up to them to pass that bar this year in the playoffs, but they are rising up in the big games, in the big moments consistently and holding on to that spot here. That Dallas game is going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to that.
I can't wait for that game. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be exciting. I still think we match up real well with Dallas. So I've got some faith that the Jets can put that one away, especially again, it's a big game on a big night. So I'm excited for it, and hopefully everybody's going to be cheering on with us at Dallas.
Glazy Water Soup, love the energy, and I haven't fact checked the stat, but I love this stat. Glizzy Water Soup over on Twitch, team hasn't lost back-to-back games in regulation in 2025. Damn good second half with that in mind. But the Doom Squad was convinced this team was losing tonight. They're finishing first in the conference, and they're winning their first round series. And personally, if they come first in the conference and it looks like they're getting mini, I'm taking the Winnipeg Jets in 5. I feel really, really good about that situation with how this team's played, and they'd earn that series. If they fall to second, people aren't going to like my Doom Squad prediction, I got to say. Let's get that number 1 spot.
Let's not have to worry about it. Let's get that number 1 position. Let's get that President's Trophy locked up so that we've got home ice throughout the entire playoffs, and let's make it a real long run.
Lucas Trapp points out it's 2018 all over again because the Jets were playing the Preds right near the end of the season. And it's nice to have those. I was talking to Slick in a Discord, and Slick was really appreciating how many tight races there are. Like, I have buddies that weren't big into hockey now are tuning into Dallas versus Nashville tonight and texting me about that game. Like, the tight playoff races make for a very exciting end of the year, as nerve-wracking as it can be. Are the Winnipeg Jets coming first in the conference? Because I know our boy Zuch 40 does not think so.
So I will make a quick correction to Glizzy Water Soup. The Jets did lose 2 regulation games back-to-back, January 18th and January 20th of 2025, right at the very beginning of the year.
So long ago.
I was going to say that barely counts. So since that point, none of their losses have been regulation back-to-back losses. They've either been in the shootout there. So yeah, they've been absolutely on fire for all of 2025.
See, Konapali's theory is maybe they just don't want to see the Avs that bad in round 1. I see Phyllis has joined the chat. Hey, Nick and Mikey, really late getting here. What a game, huh? And I've said it multiple times. I think this might have been the Winnipeg Jets' best game as far as their commitment to the system, the opponent, and what they dictated tonight. Unbelievable game.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, if they get that number 1 spot and we get to take Minnesota in that first round, 5 games, maybe even a sweep, man. Like Minnesota's not in the same category as the Jets right now.
They're not sweeping. I got to push back, and I got to get to Zuch 40 here, though, because I do think this is coming down to the wire a lot more than I'd like to believe, and I am nervous about it. Zuch 40 says, guys, it's time to we need to wake up. We aren't getting mini first round. We're going to have to face our demons of playoffs past and face Colorado first round to start it off. Dallas' schedule just way too light to end the year. Has anyone seen who Dallas is playing their last handful of games? And this is a very real possibility. If I'm not mistaken, with both of them winning today in regulation, they both have 41 regulation wins, which is the first tiebreaker. So they're tied with the tiebreaker. It's a 4-game split, though Dallas has a game in hand. Dallas would be the first place team if they win out, though I have trouble seeing them now go 7-0 from here on out. The Jets have to take care of their business on Thursday versus Dallas, and if they do, they should win first. But it's not as set in stone, and Zuch 40 is smart to remind us here. Dallas's remaining schedule: the Pens, Wild, Nucks, Jets, Utah, Detroit, Preds. It's a very easy
That's
way
light.
to back in.
That's light work.
That is
Yep.
very light.
It's you know what? That's the thing. The Jets have been in first place the majority of the season. They've had these teams breathing down their neck all year. We talked about it at the beginning of the season. Bank those points. Get those points now because it's not going to be easy later and we're going to be in this situation. So they've put themselves in a spot to control their own destiny. They can beat Dallas. They can, they've just got to keep pace at this point to take that spot. I still think they can do it. They're going to have to win that game on Thursday, but I still think the Jets finish in first place in the Central and the West.
It's going to be interesting. It's almost like adding impact at the deadline is actually beneficial when you see the points gap that has been lifted here in this Central Division race.
Yep.
I did want to get to a topic from one of our listeners that reached out on Twitter who wasn't going to make the show because it's too late, but was going to listen in the morning, which we appreciate. Anybody that gives us their time and listens to this, joins in live, listens the next day, we appreciate you. So I wanted to get to this, and I was going to forget. At Chairman Mayo Ming, want to bring it up how it doesn't make sense that Arniel still doesn't trust Cole in these late game defensive situations, which he ends up getting out there late in that 6-on-5 and scores the game winner.
Yep.
Or not the game winner, sorry, the empty net goal that
Empty netter.
finishes off. He thinks the game so well and makes beautiful small plays to break up plays consistently. And I was kind of looking at it, and if I remember what I read at the beginning of the show in anticipation of this, he only had one defensive start today. Is there still a bit of a trust thing with Cole defensively, do you think? That's
interesting that he only had a single defensive zone start in this one today. It's only one defensive zone start. So it's interesting because he's got such a high IQ. He's so good with the puck on his stick. He's gotten incredibly better off of the puck. From the eye test, I absolutely would be having him out there in those situations. So it is a little bit surprising that they aren't trusting him yet. Although, again, today he does get out there in that situation at the end of the game and gets that empty netter. So, he's building his resume this year quite a bit on all the different things that he can do. He's really starting to show not only the coaching staff, but everybody just what are all the different aspects of his game. And I think that as this progressive, hopefully he gets more of these opportunities because he absolutely can handle them and will be good at them going forward. And if he's going to be, hopefully maybe transitioning to center in the off season, that would be something else you'd want to see, right? Him getting out in those defensive situations. So it's that's one to keep an eye on, I think.
Yeah, I like where you went there, and Turd and Lucas also go similar spots over on YouTube. Turd says, I'd argue the D-zone starts maybe more on the line as a whole, not so much on Fetz. And Lucas Trapp makes a great point that I don't think that's on Perfetti, though. That's on wanting Lowry in the defensive zone. And those are all big aspects to it, too. I just wanted to make sure to get to that comment as they reached out before we got on here today.
Absolutely.
I see Frosty Winnipeg has joined, and Phyllis invited them to the chat. So, hey, I appreciate you tuning in late, and I love to see our listeners referring us. We got over the 400 mark after the last show. Thank you to everyone for helping make that happen. Next goal, I want to get to 500 on YouTube by the end of this season and really end off with a bang. Let's make that happen. Be a friend, tell a friend. On the Dallas topic, Phyllis goes in deep here with, I'll start with T. Conopoli, and I'll dive into Phyllis's 2 comments. T. Conopoli said, had the Jets lost night, they were certainly not holding on to first, and I do think that was a fair takeaway. This did feel like a must-win game with those schedules and with the situation they're in, and they rose to the occasion in a big way. Phyllis dives in a bit deeper here. Dallas had 104 points as of tonight. We have 108. We have played 76 games. They've played 75, and we're 3 points ahead of Washington, too. Dallas isn't winning the next 7 games. No way. We're beating them the next game we play them. Whew. Phyllis is ready for that game.
I'm with Phyllis. I think we beat Dallas on Thursday. I'm 100% on that one. The game that I'm most worried about so far is Monday's game against St. Louis.
Yeah, I guess that's coming up too, eh?
Yeah,
that's going to be an interesting
That's the
one.
Monday game after Utah, so that's the one I'm most worried about at the moment. But Dallas, for whatever reason, I like our matchup with Dallas. I think we can take that one.
Zooch 40, great idea. I'm going to get this done now. Zoot 40 says we got to make pamphlets with custom QR codes, and he'll hand them out at the whiteout parties.
Okay.
That's an awesome idea. That's an
We can
awesome
get that done,
idea.
no problem.
We'll see. This is very preliminary. I know we're doing the Dallas thing. We also might do something at a downtown bar around a whiteout party. We'll see where that goes. We'll save that for later. Frosty brings up the stat that Joyce has brought up earlier, and it is true, which is insane with that Central Division, 32-5-3 in the last 40, now 33-5-3 with the Jets win.
Yep.
Lucas Trapp says, "Oh my God, it's almost 2 a.m. I could start watching FP2 for the Japanese GP."
Excellent.
Hey, look at us bridging you to your late night entertainment. T. Kona with an interesting potential stat here. Jets started 15-1, and the Stars might end up finishing 15-1, which would be absurd if it played out that way.
The Blues will be, 27-0 by the end of this run? It's ridiculous.
Could be. They might never lose again.
It's unreal.
Lucas Trapp also goes somewhere I love. Dallas only has the USA backup, so it's an easy win, though he was pretty dialed tonight.
Yeah.
And we won't get to bug him in arena. That's the thing with the Winnipeg Jets faithful, man. You let in a couple early, they're going to get all over you.
Yes, sir.
Zooch 40 says, set up a tent in the whiteout party, live stream from the whiteout party. We'll see what we could do. I'm going to be in house for the first round at least, but I do want to do some more stuff like that. So I like where Zooch is going here. We'll get some stuff going.
We'll get you to stream from your seats.
Phyllis also says, yeah, might have to, eh? We'll figure something out. Phyllis says, can't see that happening for Dallas. They've barely won some of those games. And that's what's been so annoying is the Dallas Stars aren't playing quality hockey and they keep sneaking out these wins. I'm hoping the Winnipeg Jets are the team that walks in and takes advantage of that because they are taking advantage of a schedule right now that is softer.
100%.
What do you think of this? Actually, I like where Frosty goes here. Then we'll get into the 3 stars. Frosty Winnipeg says all the Central teams will want playoff format change for next year. 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, etc., etc. What's your thoughts on the current playoff format, which I know is a hot debate around the NHL?
I don't know. I think I hate the fucking playoff format currently, to be honest. You get way too many of the good matchups early on when you're packed for games as it is, and it takes away some of the meaning on the later games or the later series where you've got lesser teams still in it because they've got an easier path through some of the weaker conferences. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the current setup. I would love to go back to reseeding at the playoffs, but the NHL won't be doing it for anytime soon. I can't imagine. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm a bigger fan of the 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. Yep. You just see every year you see like a top 5 team play a top 3 team and you're losing because of the divisional format. There's a team or two that gets absolutely screwed every year after a big regular season.
Yep. And it sucks.
Yeah, I agree. But let's go into the 3 stars and take off for this night as we approach 1 a.m. here.
Let's hit it. Right on.
Who's your 3 stars on this night, Mikey?
All right, so my 3rd star I'm giving out is a joint 3rd star. They get a 1.5 stars each. Iafallo and Ehlers for just taking pucks off of the face, off of the head, off of the ankle. They were putting their bodies on the line tonight. One of it from friendly fire, so they deserve the star for that one. So they're getting a shared joint 3rd star for me tonight. Number 2, just for the 96-mile-an-hour fucking bomb, Colin Miller, you get a 2nd star. His play overall has been fantastic lately, and I love that shot from the back end. I don't know how you can take him out of the lineup when Pionk comes back. He's got to get at least a shot to play on his offside because he's been just absolutely incredible there. So give me Colin Miller, number 2. And number 1, the guy who first gives me a stomach ache because I'm a little bit afraid of what's going to go on, but once I talk myself back down, everything's okay again. And it's Eric Comrie, who might be the most likable player in the entire National Hockey League. when he does all of his off ice stuff, and now with his on ice play, hopefully people start to appreciate him there too. So number one, Eric Comrie with the shutout.
Well, he's getting a little antsy over here with the lack of attention.
There he is.
He's going to get my honorable mention
What a good
today
boy.
because of the prediction on social media. Third star, I'm going to go Eric Comrie. Steps up big in a night where I thought the Jets kept the defensive side of things taken care of. Second star, we've been worried about his offense a little bit. Nino Niederreiter, 2 assists in this night,
Yeah.
3 hits, 5 shots on goal. I like this step from Nino tonight. And I'm going to stick with that line, and I'm going to go Adam Lowry, who I just feel has been very consistent in what he's been doing and finally gets rewarded tonight with getting to that net, getting to those hard areas, and bearing the second goal, which I do really think puts this one in a spot where the Jets are able to control it the rest of the way. So let's go Adam Lowry as my number one.
Hell yeah.
And with that, have a great night. Thank you for being here. What an audience here this late after a big W. Be a friend, tell a friend. Let's keep this thing rolling in the right direction. Excited to see everyone that's reached out about Dallas. It looks like we've got a good crowd for just announcing that tonight. And we'll be back on Saturday.
Right on. Good night, everybody.